Insiders, Barbara here. Welcome back to the Creator Insider channel. Today we wanted to talk about something a little bit more serious and make it a little bit more practical for you. So I have John here. I will let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, hey everybody, I'm John. I manage policy for Advertiser-Friendly guidelines on YouTube.
Okay, so get that. We're gonna talk about policies and ads today. So I have my own YouTube channel. I have a live gaming channel, and every now and then my videos do get demonetized. And so what I would really love to better understand is our advertiser-friendly guidelines, our policies, what raters are doing behind the scenes when we are requesting those manual reviews for those yellow icons, all the rest of that. So that's what we're gonna talk about today.
Sounds good.
Sounds good? Okay, so I have pulled up on my laptop here our what are these actually called? Advertiser-friendly content guidelines.
Yep.
These are in the Help Center. There will be a link in the description down below. And I'd love to kind of just go one by one, walk through them. Because as creators, we should all know what these things are, right?
Cool. So like just before we jump into the individual policies, like just keep in mind that every single video uploaded to YouTube is determined whether or not it can run ads using our algorithmic systems, right?
Yep.
And that's measured against these advertiser-friendly guidelines. So when you upload a new video, we don't always have the full information we need to know if a video should run ads, and that's why you might get dinged, which we know isn't ideal. That's why we have the appeals system, so keep that part in mind too. And then my first piece of advice before just jumping into the individual policies is that thumbnails and titles do matter. They're the first thing you see on a video, so keep that in mind. Like, are they relevant to the video? Or do they have curse words in them? Do they have anything racy in the thumb? Like, those things really do matter as like the sort of the first line of decision in figuring out if the video can run ads.
Yeah, that seems like advice that we hear sort of across the board. So search and discovery says titles and thumbs. Yep. Advertiser-friendly content guidelines, titles and thumbs. What about description?
Description matters too, especially like initially on upload. If we don't know that much about the video right away, like our systems will look to the description for any keywords that can help determine if the video should run ads.
Okay. Okay, so when you first upload, we start processing a video to try to better understand it for these things. Do you know approximately how long it takes for videos to get through the system?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a decision made right off the bat, but like a more firm decision after the system gets to know the video could be like up to 12 hours.
Up to 12 hours, okay. How do we make decisions right off the bat?
Just like, that's what, like crazy, I agree, but it's just like,
how do you know?
Yeah,
there's so much video content uploaded to YouTube. How do you know?
Yeah, so it's just an instant system that hits every single video based on all the signals from your past videos too. So like this machine is constantly learning, and every time we do reviews, every time you appeal a video, that helps make our systems get better. That being said, it doesn't happen overnight. Yep. Algorithms take time, so that should be the expectation too, is that like you know, your feedback matters, but machines make mistakes. We're always trying to make them better.
Yeah, and so that's why we recommend for you to, as a creator, for us to know what the policies and guidelines are, and if we think the system has made an incorrect judgment, hit that request review button, right?
Exactly.
Yes. Okay. Any other tips and tricks right off the bat?
Those are the big ones, but I think we can jump right into the policies actually, because I think the first one is really relevant.
Okay.
Do you want to read it off?
Yes. Okay, so we are going to go through our advertiser-friendly content guidelines one by one. I'm going to read them out here on my laptop, and I'd love to hear your insights about these things. So we'll start off with the first one: controversial issues and sensitive events. So this is video content that features or focuses on sensitive topics or events, including but not limited to war, political conflicts, terrorism, extremism, death and tragedy, sexual abuse, even if graphic imagery is not shown, and this is video content that is not generally suitable for ads.
Yep, so it's that last part that's really key for me there, is that it doesn't have to show graphic imagery. So a lot of feedback we hear from creators is like, well, I'm just talking about this event, and we totally get it, and you should talk about that event on YouTube. We want to hear people's feelings on stuff. We know there's a lot going on in the world, and people are going to want to upload videos to talk about it. But there's just some stuff that advertisers don't want to be connected to in terms of having their ads run on videos if they're about a sensitive topic. So even if no graphic content is shown, like the topic itself sometimes is just not advertiser friendly. school shootings.
Yeah, can you give us some examples of things?
Yeah, school shootings, terrorism, death, anything that you might see like in the news. Mass scale world events can often be topics that are like of interest to people to want to discuss,
yep,
but not necessarily safe for ads to run in front of.
Okay. Do you have any examples sort of off the top of your head of things that creators might have thought were okay, but then it didn't go against the policies?
Yeah, I mean, like there's been instances, people are vlogging about their, their reaction to, say, like the Orlando nightclub shooting.
Yes. Okay.
A lot of LGBT creators were uploading videos expressing how sad they were about this event, and the reason that those weren't safe were to monetize, not because of the reaction that these creators were having in their vlogs. It was because the Orlando nightclub shooting was such a mass scale, like domestic terrorist event that just not safe for running ads in front of in general.
Yep, that makes sense. Okay, let's move on to drugs and dangerous products or substances. So this is video content that promotes or features the sale, use, or abuse of illegal drugs, regulated drugs or substances, or other dangerous products is not suitable for advertising.
Yep. So again, lots of interesting content, discussions about drugs and harmful products and substances. Educational content, like in most cases,
that's what I was going to ask. Yeah.
Educational content in most cases should be safe to monetize. It's only when you're promoting or telling showing where to buy or showing the abuse of that might become advertiser unfriendly. The issue there, like sometimes, as you can imagine, that might be hard for a machine algorithm to tell the difference between educational content and not, and that's where the appeal comes in.
Okay. What about things, so say we were filming a video and we were able to legally consume something here, and we just happened to be doing it on video while we're not focusing on that.
Yeah.
How do advertisers feel about that?
In that case, we'd want to give the advertiser the choice whether or not to run their ads on that content. Okay. So you might see the yellow $sign icon, which is
limited ads?
Which would be limited ads.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So depends on like how graphic it is, if the whole focal point is on you doing drugs or taking a substance in the background, like that would matter.
Yeah.
But again, we would give advertisers choice in that case, which is limited ads.
Okay, and so advertisers have some sort of control on their side. Do you know how granular that is?
I don't want to go into too much specifics about like different types of substances.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would just keep in mind like how much you focus on it. If it's like something not really like the primary focus of the video, that we'd be more lenient there, as well as like if it had an educational piece to it too.
Okay. What about harmful or dangerous acts? Okay, this is a big one that I wonder about. So anything that promotes harmful or dangerous acts that result in a serious physical, emotional, or psychological injury might not be suitable. So, okay,
yes.
Prank videos. YouTube prank videos.
Yes.
I'm going to butter my floor and see if my roommate slips on the buttered floor.
Hilarious, totally funny. Safe.
Who wants to see that video?
Safe for ads. Where you can help us like figure it out is like, you and your roommate laughing about it afterwards, and your roommate getting up and dusting themselves off and moving on with their day.
Okay.
What it's a little tricky is when you're clear in the video that your roommate gets a concussion and is bleeding all over the floor. That's the kind of like prank that we'd be like, no, that's not advertiser friendly. But yeah, like generally run of the mill, as long as it's clear no one's getting seriously hurt, totally fine for ads.
That feels like that's such a fine line.
It is, yeah.
That feels like that would be very tough for, I do have a computer science background. Just trying to think about how I would design this machine learning system, that feels like that'd be tough. That's subtle.
Yeah, it is tough for sure.
All right, so is there a lot of gray area in this space?
Yeah, just like anything that really focuses on like graphic injury, that's where we're gonna start to be like, ooh, this is like not something that advertisers want. Run-of-the-mill pranks, stuff you'd laugh at, like stuff you'd see on America's Funniest Home Videos, completely fine for ads, yeah.
Okay, does gore factor into this? So is it like if blood, then advertisers don't like? Is there a simple rule set like that?
Like I think real blood is something advertisers don't like, that's true, but like, yeah, if you make it, like a lot of times some of these prank videos, it'll be clear that it's like fake, like as long as you make that clear at the end or at some point, like we take that into consideration too.
Okay, that is useful things to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Okay, next one, inappropriate language. So this is a large category here. So anything that contains frequent uses of strong profanity or vulgarity throughout the video may not be suitable for advertising.
Yep.
How much is too much?
Yeah, so again...
And what words are too far? What's okay?
Yeah, so a few things here, like titles and thumbs matter. So if you're putting the F word in the title or thumb, like that's not going to be great for advertisers.
What about F with asterisks?
So again, like take that down a step, like maybe limited ads. We give advertisers choice in that case, but it's still the F word. Like, and
okay.
Yeah.
So even though it doesn't say it, it's still alluding to.
For the title and thumb, like if it's clear that it's a profanity, then it's still profanity.
Okay.
But in the video, bleeping, stuff like that definitely helps.
Yeah.
We definitely take that into consideration, and we appreciate that. And we also don't mind you cursing every once in a while. Like people curse, no big deal. If you're cursing 10 times in the first 30 seconds, like it's hard to miss that too. So just keep in mind what you put in your title and thumb.
Okay.
How often you use it, and like is it like sort of like in a mean-spirited way? If you're just like, drop something on your toe and you say, oh, F word, not a big deal. If you're screaming at someone with saying the F word repeatedly,
so
not as good for
all of
advertising.
This context stuff, that's stuff that's hard to figure out. So you said something I want to dig into a little bit. You said if in the first 30 seconds you're dropping things all over the place, is there something special about the fact that you said in the beginning of the video versus somewhere in the middle, that type of thing?
No, not necessarily. Like,
okay.
We don't have like a specific formula or anything. It's just that like if I start watching your video, like the first part is what catches me, right? So yes. I know off the bat, like, and an advertiser's gonna watch that first part too. So like keep that in mind. That there's no specific formula, but realistically, people listen more closely at the beginning of a video.
Yep. And then in terms of inappropriate language, are there certain words that are worse than other words? How do we take like regional differences into account here?
Totally. So we have like our for appeals, like we have a global team that speaks all the different languages that we support. So they take that into account as well, and that should hopefully train our machine algorithms over time. And yeah, there's different varying, words of degree. I won't list them out here.
Please don't. Please don't.
Because I don't want you to have to bleep me.
Is there a list out there on the internet somewhere that we can just like?
Yeah. I mean, things you'd like hear on, I don't know the specific words, but yeah, there's some words that are worse than others, and also like again, if that's you're being aggressive or mean, like that, we take that into account too, versus just a word accidentally slipped out of your mouth. Okay,
so it does sound like frequency, sort of the intent behind it, perhaps sort of the types of words, those all kind of factor into things there.
Totally, yeah. Exactly.
And once again, advertisers, they do have the ability to like select in or out.
Exactly, so that's why you might see more of the limited ad states for profanity, just because there are some more conservative advertisers that are just like, I don't want profanity at all, and we want to give them that option. It doesn't mean we don't think it should run some ads.
Okay. The other big category, sexually suggestive content. So videos that features highly sexualized content, such as video content where the focal point is nudity, body parts, or sexual simulations, okay? This video content might not be suitable for advertising.
Yeah.
So how do we, where's the fine line between educational versus too far within this category?
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of great content that talks about, people's relationships, romance, sexuality, like education. Great content on YouTube. For the most part, that content is safe to monetize.
Okay.
It's where you start going into more graphic detail in sexual education, where you maybe are describing sexual positions, sexual experiences. That's where we would sort of get feedback from advertisers that they don't run ads on that type of content. If it's really describing graphic sexual acts, showing sex toys.
So showing sex toys, is that okay? But where's the gray area there?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, again, what's the focal point of this video? Is it is it really education, or is it sort of more meant to be sexually provocative?
Okay.
And again, also, you know, thumbs matter here too. Like if you're posting a thumb that, you know, of, you know, naked body parts, like that's gonna matter even if the video ends up being educational.
What if it's like a little bit blurry, you know, you
I mean, we
put
take
the pixel blurs over top of it. And...
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like similar to profanity with bleeping, nudity, like similar, like it helps, but if we can tell you're nude, you're still nude, right?
Okay. Yes, please don't upload that stuff to YouTube.
For ads.
Yes. Moving on, inappropriate use of family entertainment characters. Oh geez, what is this? Depicting family entertainment characters or content, whether animated or live action, that are engaged in violent, sexual, vile, or otherwise inappropriate behavior.
Yeah, so this probably sounds like the outlier on the list. You're like, why is this here? So yeah, we've seen a lot of content on YouTube that basically is just trying to trick kids into thinking the content is for them and that it contains some weird stuff. So that's the big takeaway from here is don't try and trick kids into thinking that they're watching something that's totally safe for a younger audience. Yeah. And then like have it not be. So if your video is made for like the family experience, then definitely keep that in mind. You don't want to trick families into watching something that might not be safe for everyone in the family. Yep.
That one seems pretty straightforward to me. Hateful content. Okay, this is a big section on this page. So, video content that promotes discrimination or disparages or humiliates an individual or group of people on the basis of the individual's or group's race, ethnicity or ethnic origin, nationality, religion, disability, age, veteran status, sexual orientation, gender identity, or other characteristic that is associated with systemic discrimination or marginalization.
Yep.
There's a lot. There's a lot in here.
So actually for this one, like if you post content that promotes hate, like against one of these protected groups, that violates our community guidelines and, you know, would most likely...
Yeah, you should also take a good... So we're going through ads guidelines today. Yeah. You should also make sure you're aware of community guidelines too. We'll include a link to that in the description.
Yep. But in addition, if the video were to be up, it would not be advertiser friendly. And the thing to keep in mind here, similar to that first topic we talked about sensitive events, like hate is also just a sensitive topic. And so even if you're posting educational content about hate, you know, you might be using slurs or showing imagery from something that's also not advertiser friendly.
What about satire or comedy in this vein? How does that fit in?
Yeah, we definitely like allow some satire and comedy. For the most part, that should be safe for ads. There's some instances if you use slurs excessively, even for comedy, that we might limit ads. Okay. But for the most part, that should be fine. Okay. Incendiary and demeaning. So video content that is gratuitously incendiary, like lighting things on fire. Is it like literally what we mean? It's like basically don't be a jerk. Don't upload content that like is. Please also don't start fires. Yeah. But don't upload videos that deliberately like target to be mean to somebody else or okay, so would this fall under hate, harassment, bullying? It's a little different because it's not those are more focused on like the groups of people affected by it. This is just a more a broader scope on just general like, you know, mean-spirited content. Okay. Harassment, bullying, stuff like that. Yeah, so this said incendiary, inflammatory, or demeaning video content that shames or insults an individual or group. It's kind of what you said. Mm-hmm. All right, I think that was the whole list of things on here. What sort of final thoughts do you want to leave us with? Because as content creators, we want to make sure that we're doing all that we can to get educated, but then also make the content that we want to make to suit our audience. Totally. Yeah, I guess the biggest takeaway is that we want that for you as well. Okay, good. We just want you'd also like to put yourself in an advertiser's shoes and think like, oh, like, yes, this is good content, but would my brand running before as an ad like match up with my expectation? Is there anywhere for us to go? And because I mean, I don't think I've ever talked to an advertiser. Yeah.
How do I get in the mindset of that?
That's a great idea. We haven't really put the two and two together yet.
Okay. Because also there are so many different types of advertisers, and like you said, we've got this limited ads thing where some advertisers are okay, some aren't. Do we have sort of a canonical, like you should think of this category of advertisers? Yeah,
I think we'll have that. That's a big goal for 2018. We should be able to hopefully have more to
come.
Share. Yep, exactly.
Okay.
But like these advertiser guidelines that we went through today, like this is based on direct feedback from advertisers. That's where they came from.
Okay, so we worked hand in hand with advertisers, and we crafted these policies with them to ensure that we can try to monetize as best as we can.
Exactly.
Okay. That works. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank
you
guys.
so much. So this actually was helpful for me because I had not gone through these before. So it is helpful to learn sort of where the gray areas are between things here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Okay, so be sure to hit that subscribe button if you want more behind the scenes creator insider types of videos from this channel.
And if we didn't answer your question, make sure to drop it in the comments.
Down below. Ask all your questions. We will be there. I'm sure John will be there, and we will be answering things down there.